Hi everyone, it's Una again. I hope that you had a really great New Year's Eve. I know that with COVID it was kind of boring at our house, but I hope that you got to do something safe and enjoyable. Today I'm going to be talking about Gwendolyn Mink's book, The Wages of Motherhood, Inequality in the Welfare State. So the main purpose of the book is an analysis of the American welfare system and the historical context from 1917 to 1942. The focus is on maternalism and this maternalist viewpoint. It was a movement, a social movement, and how they impacted the more current welfare system. So the maternalist viewpoints has three main focuses. The first was to emphasize the public and political significance of women's roles as mothers and female citizens. The second was a linked incentive to cultural conformity, or giving monetary incentive for assimilating to lessen cultural diversity, which was the desired value of the time. And also pushing the agenda that cultural conformity was possible and necessary, especially for those in lesser races. So basically, Mink's interpretation of this movement was that they claimed universal political rights for women, but unfortunately the social policies written didn't reflect those. So she talks a lot about this discrepancy between what kind of the intentions were and what actually happened. From those first 3 points, you can kind of see that there are some good intentions there, but some not. And then what actually happened was unfortunately very alienating to women. So again, I think that there were some good intentions, but it wasn't done very well. And that's reflected in the welfare system that we see now. So some positives of the movement and some negatives were it was meant to alleviate poverty for women who were without husbands or income, which is a good thing. However, the government and the policies defined what needs women and their families would have, and then ultimately what they were entitled to. So one thing that she mentions in the book is that a lot of times need was measured by how far or how close a family resembled the white dominant cultural norms. They also wanted to provide social and political respect for what women did, but unfortunately it forced women to live separate lives with a dependent citizenship role. And it also, it made women, the purpose was that they wanted women to stay home and not have to work because their husbands, they didn't have husbands or an income. But it made this weird, forced stay-at-home mothership for these women. And a lot of it was because of they thought that raising children properly would produce good citizens, which I'll talk about in a minute. But unfortunately, it did perpetuate these gender roles, and women were forced, based on their biological assignment, to what they had to do. And the last positive that I noticed was mentioned often was that they wanted to increase help for immigrants and also integration of immigrants into society, which sounds very positive, but it wasn't just helping them assimilate while keeping their cultural identities. It was a forced assimilation to immigrant families. So the two main ideas from the text that I took away were, in order for children to be raised properly, the government would educate the mothers and give them money almost like a reward because they wanted, again, competent mothers. That's what Mink called them. And so for them to be competent mothers, they had to follow the expectations of womanhood and motherhood at the time by staying home, raising good children to be future citizens. And this, as Mink says, was seen as a very patriotic act for them to do, which is why the welfare system would take care of them, because they were doing something patriotic. And the second one is that women who were the ones meant to be benefited from this maternalist social program were actually required again to conform to those gender roles, forced to assimilate to American culture, and ultimately were alienated in the welfare system. So that's my interpretation of the book, The Wages of Motherhood, and those were my main takeaways. Thanks. Bye.